Well, hello and welcome everybody. My name's Kath Drescher and I'm Service Manager for Adopt South West.
And I'm Alison Barker and I'm one of the Assessment Team Managers.
And we also have Tom Johnson here with us, who's helping us with the technology and asking and answering today's questions.
So we're here live till 7:15, but if there are questions that we've not yet been able to answer, we'll stay online until 7:30.
Why are we doing this? We wanted to give people that were interested in adoption the opportunity to ask us questions and hear our answers. And we are here on Facebook live from Exeter. As you may be aware, this is our very first time of doing this, so we may trip over ourselves and experience some technical difficulties. So we'll do our best.
So if you're new to adoption, want to find out more and get your answers answered, this is your opportunity. The theme today is myth busting.
We'll talk adoption and we'll wait to hear from you as we talk about who can adopt, the types of children waiting and adoption myths. The questions and answers are aimed at people who are considering adoption and would like to know more.
So in the future, we hope to host regular live events on different topics throughout the year.
So how to ask questions. So if you are considering adoption, you can send...
We'll talk adoption and
you could send... Sorry, slight technical difficulty there. So if you're considering adoption, you can send in your questions now by direct message via Facebook, or you can either do that or you can use the comments section online now next to the Facebook live feed. But do be aware that your Facebook name will appear, or you can do it by direct message through Facebook Messenger, where we will see your message and won't mention your name. As Alison said, we will reply to all your messages. May not be able to do it this evening, but we will be sure to answer all of your messages by direct message either this evening or tomorrow.
So what is adoption? Adoption is a way of providing security, permanency and the love of a new family when it's not possible for the child to be raised by his or her birth family. After adoption, all rights and responsibilities are transferred from the birth parents to the adoptive parents, and the child assumes the surname of the new parents. They will receive an adoption certificate which replaces the birth certificate, and they become a permanent, a full member of the adoptive family.
In Adopt South West, we have a very clear vision of what we're trying to do, and we want to recruit enough adopters to be able to match our children with the right family for them. It's me still, isn't it? And we want to be able to provide our children with a safe, nurturing environment that every child deserves. For children that haven't had an equal start in life, we want to give them an equal chance in life.
So Adopt South West, we prepare all our adopters through the journey right from the beginning. We offer workshops talking about adoption, the process, the types of children that need adoptive families, and then right through, once you've got a child placed, we will offer post-adoption support right through.
So again, just to remind you about how you can ask questions. You can ask questions through the comment section or through direct messages. So we look forward to hearing from you. And I think we've got somebody watching from Bristol. So hello, Bristol.
So in terms of myths, so there's no such thing as an ideal or perfect adoptive family. We're interested in what you have to offer a child who needs adopting, rather than your marital status, finances, whether you own your own home or you already have your own children. And there's a list on our website about myth busting, which is really great. If you haven't already seen it, please have a look at our Facebook website page.
And I think our website address is on the Facebook page as well. So if you know where to look on the Facebook page, you'll find our website address.
So we've got a few questions coming in. The first one is, how old do you have to be to adopt?
So you have to be over the age of 21, but there's no upper age limit in terms of adopting. What we will do, as long as you are fit and healthy to parent a child, and we'll undertake an adoption medical as part of your assessment, then age is no barrier.
Okay, and we've had another. Can you adopt overseas?
Overseas adoption, it is possible, yes. It's much more unusual these days. We used to do a lot of overseas adoptions, but it is much more unusual, and it's much more limited as well. My advice would be to look on the Intercountry Adoption Centre's website, and they give a very full and detailed explanation of adopting from overseas.
We do have a number of children waiting within Adopt South West, and we do welcome inquiries from people living within our area, because you'd be surprised. We have, young children, we have sibling groups, we have children with complex needs, and we will, there's no barrier in terms of adopting and finding the right child for you. We'll do a lot of work around matching and what's right for you as a family. I think a lot of people felt that they had to go abroad to find a child, and that's not the case these days.
Yes, I think you're right, Alison. I remember a time when if people wanted a baby, they felt that they needed to go overseas if they wanted to adopt a baby. And in fact, we have such a broad range of children that need families now, that if you are thinking of adopting from overseas, I think it's still worth getting in touch with us and talking about why you want to adopt and the sort of child that you'd be interested in adopting, and we can see how we can take things forward.
Okay, and we've also been asked, does having a diagnosed mental health condition stop you from adoption?
So I think Alison talked about that we do a whole adoption assessment process, and part of that assessment process is a medical, which looks at mental health diagnoses as well. And then our medical advisor will take a view on that. But also what we're doing through an assessment is we're looking at all aspects of who you are and your life, and how you manage the challenges and difficulties in your life as well. And all of that forms part of the assessment. So we're looking at all of you, really.
Excellent. And next is, can you be single and adopt?
Most definitely. We welcome applications from single adopters, particularly they have a wealth of skills to offer a child or even a sibling group. And again, what we will look at is your support network and who's around you to support, particularly if you want a night off, who's going to help you. But yeah, no, definitely, please come forward if you're a single adopter.
Yes, I think there used to be a myth around that you had to be married to adopt, didn't
Yeah.
you? And you don't have to be married, you can be single. And I think something that I heard recently was that LGBT couples thought that they had to be married in order to adopt, and you don't. You can be single, you can be cohabiting, you can be married, whatever's working for you, really. What we want is people that are able to offer our children a loving home.
And do you have anything against adopting into homes with animals?
No, we don't. You'd be surprised the pets that some of our adopters have. We will do a pet assessment with you, just looking at each type of pet you've got, and again, how would it be for a child coming into the household and how that would be managed. And again, if you've got a number of animals, we might ask your vet to provide a report. But again, I'm not aware of any circumstances where we've not accepted an adopter because of their pets.
I do remember one time, Alison, when a child was adopted with their dog, actually. They already had a dog and didn't want to be separated from their dog, so they took the dog with them. And the adopters very happily accepted the dog too.
Yeah.
So,
And next we've had, we already have 4 children who would like to adopt a sibling group. Is this possible?
Most definitely. I've had quite a bit of experience, particularly adopters who have not felt that they've completed their family and have wanted to come back for one child or even a sibling group. And again, that's entirely possible. What we'll look at as part of the assessment is speaking to your own children, whether they're still living with you in the household or whether they've left home. But no, great, you come with lots of experience of parenting. It is a different type of parenting, an adopted child, but again, you bring a lot of experience with you.
yeah. And I think, as Alison says, if you've got children that have grown up and left home and you still you relish being a parent and you want to do more parenting, then we're interested in hearing from you as well.
Next we have, my husband has a visual impairment, legally partially sighted. Will that hold us back?
No, again, we accept doctors with disabilities. Again, we will explore that as part of the assessment and the medical process, but again, no, it's not a barrier.
Okay, and we've had, what does the medical assessment involve?
Okay, so what we'll do is we'll ask you to book an appointment with your GP, and they will go through and do some basic health checks with you and go through your previous history, which will then get sent to our medical advisor, who will complete a report, which will be seen by the social worker who's completing your assessment, and then it will be presented to the adoption panel when you're approved as an adopter. And we'll explore with you any of the issues that are raised from your medical.
And we should probably say as well, shouldn't we, that the assessment process happens in 2 stages. Stage 1 takes about 2 months, and that's really about your checks and references and your medical, and it covers those sorts of that sort of issues. And then the second half of an assessment takes about 4 months, something like that. And that's the lengthier, more in-depth bit that the social worker will work with you on, and that is describing your life and as we say, the issues and challenges that you faced in your life and how you have managed those and what your hopes and dreams are for the future, your relationships, your working life, your education. What else we look at? The support that you have around you from your friends and family, all of those sorts of issues. And then that report goes to a panel of people who make a recommendation about whether or not you should be approved as adopters, and then it goes to the agency decision maker who makes a decision.
And during your assessment process, there's 2 days in stage 1 workshops, which again will talk you through adoption in the process, and then in our stage 2 there's a further 3 days. So we'll really give you all the information about adoption and about the children's needs and their experiences, so you have a full understanding of the child before your approval.
So we have a few questions coming in from direct message. So if you choose to foster to adopt route, are you entitled to employee maternity leave?
So fostering for adoption, just to give a brief overview of what fostering for adoption is one of the things that we're always trying to do is to place children as promptly as possible, really. We want them to have as few changes as possible, really. We don't want children to go from their birth family's care into foster care and into adopted care. We want them to move as quickly and as smoothly as possible into the family where they're going to be growing up. So the government introduced fostering for adoption, which means that we can place children with their prospective adopters before all the legal and court aspects are fully dealt with. But we would only do this if we were confident that the court process would be leading to adoption. In terms of statutory adoption pay, the statutory adoption pay comes into place once the placement is formally agreed. So that's not at the point where the fostering for adoption placement begins. It's when it's formally agreed as an adoption placement. At the very beginning, when the child is first placed with you and moves in with you, that's a foster placement, and we give a fostering allowance for that. And then it goes to matching panel, and from that time, then you're eligible for statutory adoption pay.
And another question, how long once you are approved are you usually matched? And if this is quite sudden, what support do you give employers?
Interesting.
Yes,
in terms of placements, it can be quite quick. And again, it will depend on the type of child that you're looking to be placed with. And again, it is about that matching the child that's with you and you with them. So again, we must make sure that you've had all the information and the child social worker has the information before any placement takes place. And we make sure that you see the foster carer, the medical advisor. So there's a few things that happen prior to placement. So there is a bit of notice prior to placements. However, with fostering for adoption placements, these can be quite quick. So again, these can happen very quickly, but you would know throughout your assessment that you're going to consider fostering for adoption. So you would be prepared, and your employers would know that that's what you're considering, and in agreement that that can happen.
Yeah, and we can support you in talking to your employers as well if that's helpful for you. Okay, so thank you all very much for your questions.
Sorry, a few more questions are coming in.
All right,
Fabulous,
okay.
yeah.
Will there be any support for birth parents as well as adopting parents?
Yeah, so we offer birth parent support as well. We offer birth parent support through the court process and ongoing after the adoption as well. So we know how important it is to children to have some understanding of what's happening with their birth family, and to have some understanding of their story as well. We call it life story work. And we know that all children, all adopted children, want to understand the reasons for their adoption and want to understand their own story, really. And obviously, contact with birth parents is an extremely important part of that, really. We also support adopters and their children's siblings to stay in touch as well. It's unique for each child and what is going to be right for each child, but we'll do what we can to support what is right for them.
And what's the view if you felt you were unable to adopt a child with a physical disability?
That's fine. So part of the assessment process, the social worker will talk through the types of child that you feel is right for you and your family. And again, we talk through around sibling groups, young children. It could be a child with a disability. It could be an older child. And again, we'll talk through what does that look like? What does that mean for you and your family? We might test you a bit as well about, if you were thinking only one child and we felt you had the skills to take two, we might be saying, actually you've got the skills, you've got the support, you'd be amazing to take a sibling group. So we'll talk through that with you, and all your worries and concerns. We'll make sure that you've got all the information.
Excellent. And how long after IVF or choosing to stop for natural children before you can start the process?
Well, we usually say roughly around about 12 months, but again, this is all dependent on the individual's personal circumstances. And some people need longer, and some people need less time. And again, it's one of those things that it's best to have a face-to-face conversation with a social worker about your personal situation, and we can talk that through. And again, there's lots of different situations, life events that have affected people that it might not be the right time just this minute, but it might be in 3 or 6 months' time. So just because we might say not right now, that doesn't mean to say not ever. So please have a conversation with us.
Okay, well, thank you all very much.
A few more questions?
Yeah. Are you
Yeah.
okay?
Go on then.
Okay. I think it's going really well. So will there be any support for birth parents as well as adopted parents? Sorry, I already asked that one.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, we got to that one.
Yeah, sorry. Is there financial support if we adopt a sibling group and need more time off work?
So in terms of siblings and financial, and in terms of support generally, so when we have made a decision with you about going forward with a particular match, part of the process leading up to you being matched with a child is looking about what the support needs are going to be. So we formulate a report called an adoption placement report. Mm-hmm. And in that, we work with you and with the child social worker to think about the support needs of your family going forward, caring for this child. And it will cover such things as therapeutic support, it will cover contact, it will cover education,
emotional support,
health, Health,
Yes.
yeah. So all of those areas, and it will also include thinking about financial support and if your family are likely to need financial support, and decisions will be made about that at that time.
Yeah, and we'll make sure that we wouldn't place any child with you without having an agreement in place whether we would be looking at an adoption allowance.
Okay. Another question, why choose Adopt South West over private adoption agencies? What are the benefits?
Well, now that's an interesting question.
That's one of the reasons that we joined Adopt South West, and the benefits of us being a regional adoption agency and coming together with the 4 local authorities. I mean, it was a great opportunity for us all to work together. We have an amazing amount of experience throughout the agency, and we work very closely with the local authorities who have the children waiting to be adopted. So again, we're in regular communication. We have lots of meetings. So we're really working really closely to make sure that there's no delay for the child. And again, obviously that benefits the adopters.
Yes, and it was part of the government's reasoning for regionalising adoption agencies, in fact, was so that we would have closer working relationships across a region. And of course, we run the adoption services for Devon, Plymouth, Somerset and Torbay. So we have close working relationships with all of those local authority children's teams. And we're able to bring in best practice from all the way across the region. So we've had some excellent practice in all of our local authorities, and we're able to share that with all of our teams across the region. We do work very closely with our local voluntary adoption agencies as well, Families with Children and Barnardo's. So we work closely with them, and we all have the same outcome in mind of getting things right for our children.
Okay, let's take a few more questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. So will the adopted parents have a background about the birth parents, and can the adopting parents meet the birth families?
Most definitely. So what any adopter will see is what we call a child permanence report, often referred to as the CPR, which is all the information about the child and the birth family and the reasons why that child has come into care and why the plan is adoption. So that remains part of the child's record forever, so you will see that. And I would say definitely meeting the birth parents is I know it sounds incredibly hard, but every adopter that I've ever spoken to has said it is the best thing that they've ever done for the child that they're adopting. It gives them an understanding of where the birth parent has come from, but also that they're able to tell the child in the future that they did meet their birth parents, and they've got a connection to talk about their life story.
Yeah, and I think it's fantastic for birth parents as well. You know, they're facing a tremendous loss, and to be able to meet the people that are going to be raising their children is wonderful for them as well. So it's a very moving meeting. I think it's very demanding emotionally, but I think it's hugely valuable.
Yeah, and you'll be supported by your adoption social worker throughout that meeting. And it's generally not particularly long meeting, roughly about 15 minutes generally. And there's an opportunity to take photographs as well for the child's life story book.
Okay, and how many references do you need from family and friends for Adopt South West, as they vary by different adoption companies?
So we have 3, and that's made up of family and friends. However, if we feel that we need more, because say if it's a couple and one referee doesn't know the other partner particularly well, then we would ask for another reference. So it can be variable, but generally the standard 3. Yeah,
and they're the sort of in-depth references, but we also ask for an employer's reference, and if you have children living with you already and we'd want a reference from the school or nursery or something like that, just to have an understanding of how that child is. But again, that's a brief reference. The in-depth references are family and friends.
Someone said, I assume that some of these children are rather vulnerable. what kind of support do you offer adopters in dealing with that?
So we have there's three parts of Adopt South West. There's three parts of our service. There's recruitment, which is about recruiting enough adopters for our children so that we can make the right match for them. There's family finding, who work with the local authority children's teams to make sure that we get the right adopters for the right child. And then the other part of our service is the adoption support service, which is an extensive part of our service which operates regionally. And we look to how best we can support our adopters throughout their child's childhood. Part of that adoption support can be very low-key. It can be, we've got some woodland walks coming up, we have Easter egg hunts, we have Christmas parties, we have circus parties, we have similar events up and down the region at that level. And then we can also help our adopters access more therapeutic support as well, and support around their child education when that's needed.
Okay, and how can you get a private face-to-face with a social worker?
Okay, so I mean the first port of call, if you've not already been to one of our information sessions, would be to book onto one of our sessions, and these are held regularly throughout the region, so please book on one of those, and then there will be an opportunity to speak to a social worker after the event. After that, if you wish to have another conversation with a social worker, we have a worker who's on every day on our duty and advice line, and they'll be able to answer any of your questions. And again, we hold what we call ROI clinics. They're our registration of interest clinics each week in all of the offices. And again, you could book in and speak to one of our social workers.
Okay, a few more questions. Also, how long will the support be made available for? Is this into the teenage years?
Certainly, yes, absolutely. Lots of adopters find that their adopted teens have all sorts of questions and all sorts of support needs. So yes, absolutely. We also run a group for adopted teens, and we're looking to expand those groups across the region as well. Okay, well, one more question.
Yeah, okay.
Probably a really quick one. Do you cover Cornwall as well?
We do indeed. We cover of our neighbouring local authorities. So our social workers will travel. So don't be afraid to contact us if you live outside of Adopt South West boundary.
Okay, and one more. Are you able to adopt if a member of your family has a criminal record? For example, if someone in your family has a criminal record.
If someone in your family has a criminal record, again, stuff like that is part of your assessment, and that's one of the reasons why we have such an in-depth assessment. Criminal record doesn't rule you out in itself at all. We'd have to look at it on a case-by-case basis and think about the circumstances around the offence, what the offence was, your view of the offence, looking back on it, those sorts of issues. So it forms part of your assessment.
We've got time for one more quick one, and then we can. Someone's noticed that there are no children from Adopt South West on Linkmaker. What is your family finding process?
So we do use Linkmaker, but in terms of accessing information from Linkmaker, you need to be registered through us, via us. So you would need to be an approved adopter to be able to view children on Linkmaker. For those of you that aren't aware, Linkmaker is an online resource that we use nationally, all the way across the country, and it helps us to match adopters with children. But yes, it's for approved adopters.
Well, actually, they're just coming online just before approval. So we are to capture those adopters wanting to particularly look at fostering for adoption, and there is an online forum as well for discussion. But again, we have to be really careful in terms of who can see children on Linkmaker.
Okay, so thank you very much, everybody. That was really interesting questions. In terms of our events and information events and details like that, they're all on our website, adoptsouthwest.org.uk events. And as we've said, there are children waiting to be adopted right now. So if you're interested in taking things further, then please do make contact with us. As I say, we will answer all of your questions as we go through them this evening. And you can also visit our website and make inquiries on our website. We've got an online form that's on our website. So thank you all very much. And we look forward to talking to you all again soon.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye.